reference them anyway into the show notes. So
yeah, there's lots of links for the show notes.
That's my bad for not getting them to you sooner. But yeah, because they would have been really good because they're good comments on gun control.
It's on West Wing like an Aaron Sorkin show.
Yes. Yes.
So it's probably fucking biased as hell to the liberal
Well, no,
side.
it's actually, come on, no. See, now West Wing, that was one of the nice things about West Wing is they were always equitable. They always presented both sides of the issue, to some extent. Maybe a little less here on the gun control, although there is some pro-gun control sort of from Ainsley. But no, just two really good. Two good comments. Anyway.
All right, I haven't heard Dumbass or Brandy since Brandy came back in, so you guys want to...
Hi, Brandy.
I'm getting there. Wait.
Okay, I hear Brandy. I also hear an echo.
You need to hear from my audio, is that it?
Yep, I hear you too. Okay. I was just making sure I could hear everyone.
Fine. I'm coming through okay?
Yes, you are. Brandy, you might plug in your headphones to the computer because there's getting feedback from the speakers.
Yeah.
And then once she's ready, I'll sync us all up. We'll start recording, sync up, and we'll go. I was gonna make Michael McElroy and Erno do our little acapella theme song, but we only have half the band here.
Sure, just say when and we'll sync up, right?
Okay.
Together.
Sing with me, sing for the years, sing for the mice.
That's a scary icon you got of yourself, Erno. There. You really need the more friendly vote version, yeah.
Have you seen the pic that's on the website? It's all.
Oh.
I will rule your soul is what that picture says.
I went on yesterday when the professor died, from Gilligan's Island, and I was looking at them all, and the only two people left from Gilligan's Island are Mary Ann and Ginger, and I was looking at their photos, and Mary Ann has aged very gracefully. I mean, she's very pretty, still looking. You can still see her younger features in her face. And you look at Ginger, and wow, I mean, she makes Phyllis Diller look good. She is just like way too many facelifts, way too many cosmetic surgeries. It's just, I mean, she's kind of scary now. She really is. Sad to see.
Brandy, did you get your headphones on? I don't see your video anymore, so I don't know if you're good to go.
Okay, so trivia of the Gilligan's Island crew, who was the oldest when they died?
Who was the oldest when they died?
Well, they
I have absolutely no idea.
So far, who was the oldest when they died?
Well, the obvious seems like whoever played Thurston Howell, but I'm gonna say this has to be a trick question and say Bob Denver.
No, actually no. Jim Backus played Thurston Howell. He was only 76 when he died. His wife is the oldest, Natalie Shaver. She was 90 when she died. Yeah. Bob Denver was 70 when he died. Alan Hale was 68.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. And Alan went first.
Let's see. Ooh, some dead air.
Isn't that a weird term, by the way? How does air die? What's living air? I don't know.
Touché, sir.
It's stabbed in the back.
Yeah, I guess.
With a knife. That's how you kill air.
Michael McElroy said he'll be here in a couple minutes, so we're running late, I guess. That's all right.
Hey, it keeps reverting to the computer's cam instead of, even though I changed the setting, it keeps blinking back to the the standard cam that's on the laptop.
Your sound seems to be good at least.
So
well, hang on, no, because
even in your control panel, Brandy, you can't change it to your default device in your control panel sound to be the your microphone.
Hold on. Now it wants to kill an unresponsive page saying that Hangouts is unresponsive. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, you're getting... I've been getting that since the new Java download, the new Java update, and all of a sudden I get every 5 or 10 minutes or so, whenever I'm on Google Hangout, I get a web page not responsive, and if you hit kill, everything shuts down. I finally unloaded Java yesterday. I had to uninstall Java for it to go back to working again. So I don't know if there's a bug in the new Java update or not.
A bug in a Java update? Get the fuck out.
Go figure. Never. Be, right?
Never.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, I hate Java. I was like,
someone's like, oh, hey, the other day this week they had a Java developers meeting here in Oklahoma City, and my friends are like, you gonna go? I'm like, no, I don't
give me
really
the Microsoft shit. It works right. Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'll tell you what, I've had some trouble with
Howdy.
with Microsoft for the new Visual Studio recently, and I was trying to install the premium ISO because the one I had was apparently a trial version. I was having issues with it, and I was like, I wonder if I just wanted to buy this outright, how much would it cost? Because we have an MSDN subscription at work.
Okay.
And the Pro version is $6,000.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I was like, get the motherfuck out.
I
remember when Visual Studio Pro was like $300, and I thought, wow, that's expensive. $6,000 fucking dollars.
You must be looking at the whole MSDN thing for.
Well, yeah, it's with. I didn't see an option anymore to buy it without an MSDN subscription. I kept looking around. I was like, that is fucked up.
I haven't bought a version in 30 years. I'm still on the trial version.
Yeah, there is the Express version, yeah, but. I was looking not if I wanted to buy the full-on deal.
No, I just get the ultimate and then just keep extending the key. It's like, yeah, whatever.
I didn't tell Brandy I'm.
And now am I live? Yes, I'm live. Great. So Microsoft's coming to my house now with a gun. Install that right now.
They should make that a 6,000 a year subscription.
Like I think they should make it freaking free if you're a developer, you know. Jeez, it's not. I mean, give me a break. They don't. That's not where Microsoft makes their money. I mean, the development shit should be free.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my. But yeah, no one's asked me.
Everything should be free.
I'm okay with the idea of paying for it. I just
a reasonable price, yeah.
Fucking much.
Yeah,
maybe there is a version that's non-subscription.
I'll pay a couple $100 a year, but that's about. I mean, a couple $100, but that's about all.
Okay, Brandy, see if that's working.
Okay, are we getting this shit started?
I think so. We're trying.
Yeah, you just did the thing I did, and for some reason it'll go back to you.
Huh.
Yeah, there's really no point in having everything prepared on Thursday because the show doesn't actually start till Sunday afternoon.
I want to be mad at that, but it's so goddamn true.
I missed it. What? I missed it. It was definitely funny. What did I miss?
Having everything done by Thursday because we don't get started till Sunday afternoon. Okay, everybody get to recording.
I tried out the Audacity. Yeah. I really did my diligence on this.
Did you do the control panel, Brandy?
Did you restart it 3 times?
Did you go to the control panel and sound, and then set your default?
Yeah, and it'll say the right thing, and then when I go into the Hangouts, it'll end up going back to blink the webcam on the left and a little light.
Whatever.
Right now, my new webcam is on, so.
All right.
What really matters is your audio is okay, and we're not getting feedback. So that's what.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Audacity's recording settings are separate from Windows recording settings.
Yeah.
So
everybody got your recordings going?
We're live right now.
We are live. We've been live for a little while. There's 3 viewers right now going. There's 3 viewers going. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
Gun control.
Well, I'm sorry that we have these difficulties. It's definitely something I tried to avoid.
Maybe our director should.
If everyone's recording, then let Mike.
Audio difficulties in Jesus' name because
Hold
we know
on,
what the devil
yet,
likes
so
to do.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
No demons in the PowerPoint presentation.
Did not cast out the audio demons. Yeah.
Audacity
Yeah,
of
well,
demons.
yeah. See, that's why they name all that shit demons.
The Hangouts
the
demons.
Linux stuff. They're all
I'm
demons.
Getting to it upright.
All right.
I'm gonna stop this. I've been recording for a while.
That lady freaks
Start
me
over.
out.
What lady?
Hold on. Well, I mean, do what you gotta do, but I'm finding Audacity.
I'm not doing anything. I had been recording, and I'm gonna stop until we're just about to start. So Mike doesn't have to. Whoever's gonna edit this one doesn't have to listen to 7 minutes of me rambling and chuckling.
Oh, hey, we're live. This is actually going out.
Yeah, we're on right now. Yeah,
Yeah, let's fire this.
we're losing viewers as we speak.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go.
Also, I should stop my Audacity recording and just start it in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or just delete the stuff right before the
We
sync.
can have some pre-actual show banter about gun
I'm
control.
getting there. I'm not there yet.
I just leave my Audacity recording all week long and then send Mike the whole freaking thing at the end next week.
And it only takes you 10 minutes to upload.
You said a real
It only takes minutes. That's right. No big deal.
Yeah.
I uploaded the whole internet in an hour and a half.
Have you seen his bandwidth? 10
Yeah,
minutes.
it's fucking disgusting.
It's gonna take
but I'm
like
pissed.
5 minutes.
But I'm pissed. But I'm pissed at the rest. I'm pissed at the rest of the world because I got to upload, and then the guy that's receiving got crappy bandwidth, and it doesn't do me any good.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like that's a first
Yeah.
world problem. My bandwidth is so high that the
no
other
one can receive
other
it, yeah.
person's limited bandwidth slows me down.
Oh.
Don't forget to record in mono, by the way. It cuts the size of your file in half.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what she.
recording in
Wait,
mono.
what?
Okay, shall we fire this fucker up?
Let's light this candle.
All right. Who's doing the countdown?
I'll have
Hang on one
nothing of
sec.
value
Hang
to
on, hang
add
on.
to this conversation, by the way, so I'm probably going to be silent for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because of why, Mike?
Because I just don't give a shit one way or the other.
Codes Rebel. Okay, is anyone not ready to go? Brandy, you all good now?
Audacity is taking its sweet time. It's give me a little symbol like it's trying to start up.
I think I can.
That poor laptop.
I think I can.
I remember when that laptop was badass, like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I got to reformat them every week.
No, it's not reformat. It's just like now. It's like new things come out, things that are
Oh.
updated, and old
Hey, does
hardware.
anybody-
It's just not so great anymore.
Does anybody? I heard a good recommendation. Does anybody have a Roku? Anybody use a Roku?
Yeah, I've got.
Do you like? Is it pretty fast as far as the menus and loading stuff up like Netflix?
Yes.
Oh, Apple TV, I highly recommend it. Yes.
Okay.
Brandy
Oh,
and I both-
Chrome's
Brandy and I
highly
both have
recommended.
Chromecast too. Yeah.
Yeah, because right now it's going
The
for
Roku?
Apple TV and Chrome.
yeah,
The new Roku too, Roku 3,
yeah.
natively supports MKV files too. By the way, which is
What's MKV,
badass.
by the way?
It's a video format. So if you happen to download a video that's a high definition video, that's an extension that's used for really high definition videos. It's
Nice.
freaking awesome.
Yeah, right now everything is streaming through the DVD player, and it sucks as far as loading time and menus and crap like that. So I'm gonna go get a Roku.
I want to be able to recommend Chromecast highly, but it's got problems still. It's cool because it's only $35, and it does work with a lot of neat things. But if you're not into early adopting and okay with the occasional clusterfuck,
Apple TV works great if
Apple TV works
will
good.
let you use the feature.
Okay, we ready to record now?
Yep.
You got a hot dog, Mike?
Randy, is Audacity working for you yet?
Ooh.
Nope.
No?
No, Audacity actually, and it won't let me get it down. Close the program. There we go. Close the program. Actually, close it.
I had a hangout yesterday with G-Man. He assured me that there's no sexism in the Bible anywhere.
Are you serious, G-Man?
Yeah. Yes.
Ask him if he's figured out what the Bible says about slavery yet. So he called into the Atheist Experience a while ago and told them that it doesn't have anything about slavery in it.
Right.
G-Man's my hero.
We're live, remember? That's a soundbite.
Yeah.
He'll be putting up on his marketing on his website.
You guys just
What?
What,
Go on
Brandon?
without
Brandy's
me.
audio is dead.
Who's
Randy,
G-Man?
You can participate by Q&A.
Yeah,
if
go
you
on
want
without me.
to.
Let me try one more time to see if I can help you fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you could do? You know what you could always do,
Phone.
Brandy? You could always
Yeah, your audio.
you could send audio later after this is done. Record some audio and then have them
Well,
weave it
it's
into
not-
the.
Kind of hard to have
Just
a
sound like you're part of
conversation
it.
at that point.
Just take
She's
sound bites and make up a
listening on
conversation.
headphones and recording what she's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like Primer. She just listens 2 seconds ahead and repeats everything.
I'm curious about something, Brandy. On your little thing there, it says
If you haven't
token.
seen Primer, like, what the fuck does that even mean? So,
It says token mouthy female. So I'm trying to figure out what part of that makes it token.
Okay.
It's not the mouthy part, and it's not the
Oh,
female
dear.
part. So where's the token part come in?
I think there's another word that's cut off at the bottom.
Oh, well, she dork. Maybe that was the part. Oh, wow, there we go. Oh, crap. All right. Yeah, mine's lower if I go through Chicago, though, too. Did I go through Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They can't handle it. I get capped at like 300 or so going through there. You know, one thing I did notice is when Skype is running, I mean, just not conversations or anything, it's just open. It cuts my bandwidth almost in half, literally. Even at 700, it cuts it down to 300. As soon as I shut down Skype, everything flies. So I don't know what the hell Skype is doing as far as online communication while it's up, but sucks up a good amount of bandwidth. Maybe we should all shut down Skype for the next one, see if it helps.
Yeah, we're already getting comments in the Q&A section.
Oh, are we really?
Yeah, just
About
one.
What does it say? Anything? Let me see here. Come on, Q&A.
yeah, that's my buddy Levi. He's watching. He's been anxiously anticipating. And Brandy's rebooting her computer right now, so she said just go without her.
Okay.
Oh, I had a great quote. It was just for Brandy today too.
Okay,
I
well.
went and found it, but okay.
Maybe she'll be able to get back in here with this. So let me restart Audacity. I'm recording, and Mike can count us down whenever you're ready.
Just a second, I'm checking on my own recording here, because I noticed while editing our secular morality episode a couple days ago, I had my microphone turned backwards, and it sounds like I was in a bathroom. So, yeah. Do I sound okay?
Mike's doing a bandwidth check, so this might take him a second there.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
that's
good.
just a. Oh, I thought you were actually running that now.
No.
Okay.
That's just a screenshot, it looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen and gentlemen, on the count of three, after three, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, glory hole, and we're going to sync up on glory hole. So, ready? 1, 2, 3, glory hole.
Glory hole.
Glory hole.
Wow.
Did that sound as bad to everyone else as it did to me?
Yeah, let's try that again. Okay. 1, 2, 3, glory hole.
Glory hole.
Glory hole.
Not on 3. Fuck it.
Okay, whatever. We'll work with
Close
it.
enough.
I'll make it work.
Oh god.
Close
Oh,
enough-
I
close
guess
enough
that's
with
me,
our
isn't
motto
it?
here.
That's my line. All right, so welcome everyone to the Irreverent Skeptics podcast. Acapella theme song. Here you go.
Skepticism and irreverence.
So joining us today-
Skepticism do the nasty.
They do the nasty in the air.
Whoa. Joining us today, Mike Bowler,
Hello.
Michael McElroy,
Howdy.
Erno,
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Carlton George,
It's my band with bye.
God.
wow, dumbass,
Aloha.
and I'm John Omby, and I'm already frustrated with this show today.
You know, John, I'm glad you take this show so seriously, because these are serious topics.
Yeah, they are. This is a topic. The topic today is gun control. God damn it.
Pew, 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 pew.
So, I guess the first place to start with gun control is kind of the pivotal point of gun control is the Second Amendment of the Constitution, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people that keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A few things about that. To date, the Supreme Court has never fully defined the implications of the Second Amendment in terms of gun ownership and gun control. They've imposed some restrictions, or they've allowed the government to impose restrictions on gun ownership, but they've never come right out and said this is a good interpretation of the Second Amendment and what it actually means. I've got a few pieces of legislation we'll talk about real briefly, and if any of you have something to add about them, feel free. These are not comprehensive facts about those pieces of legislation. They're just a few talking points. So if I did miss something and you're listening in the Q&A, or later you want to send a comment and tell me I'm a dumbass and missed something, feel free. That's excellent. I'll address it somehow. So in 1986, the Firearms Owners Protection Act, it addressed ATF prosecutions that were considered constitutionally improper by the Senate Subcommittee on the Constitution of the Committee of the Judiciary, and added restrictions to the ATF's inspections and enforcements concerning firearms. I guess there were a lot of cases of the ATF doing, as I understand it, they would do inspections on people who had guns registered, or somehow they're aware of these people have these firearms, and they would do inspections on, I don't know if this was personal property or businesses. I'm not exactly sure. I tried to get more information, but I had a stack of other things to read through as well. It also added restrictions on the sale and ownership of fully automatic firearms. There is a safe passage provision which was added, which basically stated that if a person is carrying firearms in a vehicle and they're passing through a state that has really strict gun control regulations, they couldn't be incarcerated for having those firearms so long as the firearm and ammunition were kept separate from one another, the firearms were unloaded, and a few other points on that. It was clarified in a few other ways. And also forbade the U.S. government from keeping a registry directly linking non-National Firearms Acts firearms to their owners. That's a piece of legislation from earlier in time, which I won't go into. There's links on the show notes. You're able to read about that if you want. The Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988 made the manufacturing, importation, sale, delivery, possession, transferring, or receiving of a firearm that is not detectable by a walk-through metal detector illegal. It also included firearms that had major components that prevented airport X-ray scanners from generating an image, like an accurate image of the firearm itself. The 1990 Gun-Free School Zones Act was originally passed as a section of the Crime Control Act of 1990. The Supreme Court subsequently held that the act was an unconstitutional exercise of congressional authority in 1995. This was the first time in more than 50 years that the Supreme Court had limited congressional authority to legislate under the Commerce Clause. This is another one where there's a lot more to say about it in terms of how that all came about. It was pretty complex. I did some reading on it. We can revisit that if we like. The Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993 instituted federal background checks on firearm purchasers in the U.S. And then the Federal Assault Weapons Ban from 1994 to 2004 banned the manufacture and transfer of certain newly manufactured semi-automatic firearms and ammunition feeding devices, also known as magazines. There have been a number of unsuccessful attempts to renew that ban. So we have a few talking points about that. One is that the Second Amendment was based partially on the right to keep and bear arms in English common law and was influenced by the English Bill of Rights of 1689. Sir William Blackstone described this right as an auxiliary right, supporting the natural rights of self-defense, resistance to oppression, and the civic duty to act in concert of defense of the state. That's a link. That's a bit from Wikipedia that I believe Brandy found for us. So thoughts on the Second Amendment and legislation stemming from the Second Amendment in terms of gun control?
I'm for it.
I'm for it. I myself, my personal opinion, I don't really have a stake one way or the other. I'm kind of neutral on it.
Me either.
Yeah, if I could just choose to live in a society where citizens just didn't have guns, that would be good. I'd like that. That's not the case, and that cat's certainly out of the bag here in the U.S. And I would say that I don't feel any less safe because my neighbors may have pistols, rifles, automatic rifles even, or shotguns. Certainly, the statement I've heard made many times of you don't need a machine gun to go hunting. No, you don't need a machine gun to go hunting. That makes sense.
You don't need to go hunting.
True. One thing I would say is sometimes guns aren't really a matter of defense so much as entertainment. Like I wouldn't buy if I were going to buy a machine gun, I wouldn't buy a machine gun for defense. I'd buy a machine gun because it's cool to go blow shit up with it.
And shoot a fucking machine gun.
Yeah, did you know what I did last weekend? I shot a fucking machine gun. Did you get that for self-defense? Well, not really. Unless maybe you want to put in your entry hall. You have a machine gun nest at the end of your entry hall. You could do that. Take turns as a family. All right, Junior, you're up at 3 a.m. Don't you fall asleep on your post.
It's time for Run the Gauntlet. See how long you can survive. Our last son made it 5 seconds.
You have to have signals to go to the bathroom at night. Flash, thunder, tinkle.
Yeah, I don't know who would want a machine gun for fun, because I've used them in the military service and it wasn't that fun. Well, of course,
I have shot a number of different machine guns in video games. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but actually laying down on a gun range and when there's snow halfway up your thigh, that pretty much sucks.
Yeah, that's Finland for you.
I can imagine the reality is far different than anything I've experienced.
Yeah.
What did you say, dumbass?
I said anything sucks when there's snow halfway up your thigh.
I don't know. I can think of a few things.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right.
No, you're not. Not the way I'm picturing it.
Right, not that kind of right there. Boy, did we just take a turn.
Yeah, and also a well-regulated militia handing out guns to everyone, for money, but still giving everyone a gun. Is that a well-regulated militia?
The thing that gets me is when people try to make the argument that we need guns to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government, as if any number of citizens is going to be able to defend themselves from the weapons that our government has now. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I've thought about that before when recently had a conversation that wasn't included in that conversation was a bit about Michigan militias, which is not to pick on Michigan, it just happened to be that's what we were talking about. And that's something I thought was, for all the training that a Michigan militia may have, and if it's a separatist group that, so you have some military separatist group in Michigan.
Good luck.
I don't imagine that the equipment and training those guys have is really going to stand very well against the U.S. military. I don't know if that's been tested in any sense here domestically.
No.
But
I mean, do I have the right to have a drone plane too? I mean, I kind of would like one of those.
Well, you can build one for yourself.
I could build one.
They get one of those quadrotor copter things, and
I was doing a little reading this week, and one of the things that I came across that was interesting for me in this is that the NRA takes a lot of heat for a lot of this stuff, but apparently the NRA that we know today is not the NRA the way it started off, and for many, many years. And I didn't realize this at all, is that the NRA actually is responsible for writing or helping to write most of the gun control laws that we have prior to the early 1970s when they were taken over. And I got a couple of just little samples here if I can read. It says in the early 1920s, the National Revolver Association, the NRA's handgun training counterpart, proposed model legislation for states that included requiring a permit to carry a concealed weapon, adding 5 years to a prison sentence if a gun was used in a crime, banning non-citizens from buying a handgun. They also proposed that gun dealers turn over sales records to police and created a one-day waiting period between buying a gun and getting it to provision and getting it. Two provisions that the NRA opposes today.
That's kind of shocking to me. I had no idea they were involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah. This is interesting. This is a quote from the one of the presidents of the past presidents of the NRA, a guy named Carl Frederick, who is a 1920 Olympic gold medal winner for marksmanship. He said, "I have never believed in the general practice of carrying weapons." He testified before the 1938 law was passed. "I do not believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses." And then the last two here. It says the federal firearms laws imposed high taxes and registration requirements on certain classes of weapons, those used in gang violence like machine guns, sawed-off shotguns, and silencers, making it all but impossible for average people to own them. This is NRA-supported legislation, by the way. Gun makers and sellers had to register with the federal government, and certain classes of people, notably convicted felons, were barred from gun ownership. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously upheld these laws in 1939. And then lastly, the Gun Control Act of 1968, sort of the end of this era for the NRA, reauthorized and deepened the FDR-era gun control laws. It added a minimum age for gun buyers, required guns have serial numbers, and expanded people barred from owning guns from felons to include the mentally ill and drug addicts. Only federally licensed dealers and collectors could ship guns over state lines. People buying certain kinds of bullets had to show ID. But the most stringent proposal of a national registry did not pass. So it's those things, and the other thing that I thought was interesting was that this whole Second Amendment was never part of the NRA's core marketing machine, if you will. And actually, I found an interesting statement. It says in the mid-1960s, it was the Black Panthers that were better known than the NRA for expressing the view of the Second Amendment, that it was a citizen's right to carry guns. So it seems that the NRA, and apparently there was a hostile takeover within the NRA of a group of people who felt, like you see the NRA today. But that has never historically been the position of the NRA. They were about training and safety, period.
That leads me to something I was just talking about last night with a friend of mine on this issue and about the NRA and just gun control advocates and opponents, is that a lot of what let me rephrase that, a lot of what I tend to hear are kind of zero-sum arguments. It's all or nothing, one way or the other, and I think that comes often less from wanting policy so much on guns as other political arguments. So you have two different groups with two differing ideologies, and when one has some proposal of some manner, the other feels it necessary to oppose that entirely, when in fact it seems like the things you just read, in fact, those all sound very reasonable. And had I not known anything about the NRA, but what, say, certain family and friends had said about them, I would think, they're just a bunch of gun nuts that want rocket launchers in the back seat of everyone's car, if that's what someone wants. And that, as I understand it, that is not the case. They are very much in favor of reasonable, responsible gun ownership. If you are of the mind that people shouldn't just own guns entirely, that's not a thing, then sure, you'd stand in opposition of what the NRA seems to stand for. That's a little different.
Although I did see
than the legislation we see proposed. It's generally, we want restrictions, not. You'll hear this hyperbolic. They're going to come and take all your guns away, and that's just all that is. That's scare tactics bullshit. That is just not the case. That no one's looking to come and take guns away from everyone at their house. Or no one reasonable.
But John, I read on WorldNet Daily about how Obama's come up with another way to snatch away your guns. Like every week.
Canadian aliens?
Oh God! I swear, every week WorldNet Daily. I'm on their mailing list, by the way. Every week WorldNet Daily has a new article about how Obama's latest plan is going to snatch away your guns, and it never happens. And yet they keep publishing these articles.
Since you mentioned Obama's plan to take people's guns away, I was reading about Obama's most recent gun proposal, which was just this month, and the main points, really the two main points I saw from this, and there's more, but these are the bigger points, were about mentally disturbed individuals being restricted from being able to purchase firearms, and that being through background checks. So if I go to buy a firearm and there's a background check done on me and the search returns that I've been committed voluntarily or involuntarily to a mental care facility, and I wasn't sure if there were stipulations on what the reason was for being committed or not. I didn't see that there was. That would prevent me from being able to buy a handgun. There was a part that I was reading that I could see potentially being a point of contention where the Department of Health and Human Services would remove barriers that keep states from sharing that kind of information with the federal background check system. And it could be argued that stands in violation of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, as most people know. So I can see that being a point of contention. I think in terms of just restricting who's able to buy a handgun, at least the intent of that sounds reasonable to me. Although I would argue that just because a person might have spent time in a mental health care facility, that alone does not indicate that person's disturbed and not able to responsibly own and operate a firearm.
Well, I did see it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but I did see a news article which was from last year, and it was hi Brandy, there you go. It was an article about you see from time to time things like this. It was an article in South Carolina about how 20 or 30,000 fish turned up and were found dead on the shore in the morning, and somebody commented that if they were allowed to own guns, that wouldn't have happened.
Wait, come again?
No. It was just an article that somebody there were 20,000 fish that turned up dead, and somebody sort of in tongue-in-cheek in support of the NRA said if they had been allowed to purchase guns, that wouldn't have happened. But I did see a quote that actually is a little more accurate. I thought Brandy would like it too, because it's probably true. It says if women were to take up arms to protect their reproductive rights, the GOP would have banned assault rifles years ago.
What about if you're mentally unstable, or if you've been to a mental hospital or something? Couldn't you just buy a gun of your friend or Craigslist? Is there any background checks for like Craigslist?
I don't know that you're allowed to. Are you allowed to sell them on Craigslist anymore?
Well, let's say if you sell one to your neighbor,
sure.
Do you have to do a background check?
I don't know for sure. It's my understanding. It's my understanding that you're not allowed to. But I don't have any good basis for that. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe someone can fill us in on that. I'm not really sure. I was going to say real quick about gun control legislation last year, and I won't read all these different points from it, but a year ago in January 2013, President Obama had proposed gun control legislation, which was far more sweeping than this year's, and it was defeated, I think, in April. It was finally shot down entirely last year. So that the proposed legislation has changed and has lightened somewhat in the last year.
I know that some recent legislation pushed for having gun registrations and all sorts of stuff that, like what you were saying, Carlton, the NRA used to support, but apparently they don't anymore. And even something like almost 90% or 90% or more, I don't remember the exact statistic, of NRA members supported the sort of gun control legislation that was being promoted, but it still got voted down because I don't understand that. I don't know.
I think my opinion on that is that NRA members are not directly represented by members of Congress. Though the members of Congress certainly take some direction from their constituents, but I don't think they always vote in the same manner that their constituents would moreover approve of them voting.
They shouldn't have the job in the first place.
But I think
I would agree.
Spends a lot of money in your elections anyway. So.
From what I can see, by the way, John, on a private sale of guns here, it may be this is a particular state, but it looks like this is a federal regulation, that technically there is no paperwork required for private transfer of guns. So buying, for example, a gun to give it to someone as a gift even is perfectly fine. However, there is a caveat here that you do need that you cannot do that if you have any reason to believe that the recipient is prohibited from owning a firearm. So I imagine that could get kind of an odd position if the guy buys a gun from you, then goes out and holds up a bank with it. So the recommendation is that you don't do it, but there's not a law preventing it.
I see.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the the gun show loophole. I think they talk about quite a bit.
Where owners can buy or change back and forth.
Yeah.
Interesting. Here's my own personal one on this is, and this is what I don't get, and I've never really had anybody give me what sounds like a good answer to me. I mean, nobody argues the fact that guns are responsible for tens of thousands of accidental deaths per year. A lot of those are children. Some of them are adults. Given that, even if you agree that the Second Amendment gives you the right to have the gun, why would you want to exercise that? In other words, given how obviously dangerous there are and the fact that they're not really required for anything, it's not like driving a car where you need one to get around. Why would anybody insist on taking advantage of that right? Why not just willingly give it up for the benefit of all?
Well, I think hobbyists are one thing. They probably just collect guns for, as John said, for the shits and giggles you get from owning a gun and shooting a gun. Other people buy them for hunting, but like if you live in a city and own a handgun, I don't know what you're going to use it for except killing something, other people or, let's say, rats. I don't know.
But even the guns that you collect as a hobby or the guns that you collect for hunting, I mean, I don't have a stat on this, but I would suspect that given the large number of accidental deaths, I would certainly assume that those includes guns that are bought as hobbies or guns that are used as hunting and either aren't properly handled, taken care of, secured, whatever the case may be. And people might say, well, all we need is better training, but it seems like that doesn't seem to mitigate the problem.
Yeah, in Finland you actually have to be a part of something like a gun range, hobby group, or hunting. I think they call hunting groups, hunting societies, whatever, or they won't let you own a firearm.
I'm getting a gun soon because I live alone and I would like one for protection. It's also important that, when something goes bad, that I can do something to defend myself because otherwise I'm relatively powerless.
You do know that you are more likely to hurt yourself with the gun than
I'm not worried about
an
it.
intruder.
Yeah. I don't worry about that one bit. I'm fine with that. My ex-sister-in-law was actually brutally raped, and I'm thinking, you know what? That is not how I ain't going out like that, as they say.
Out of curiosity, why a gun and not a non-lethal sort of thing like pepper spray or mace or a taser, stun gun, that sort of thing?
What do you think, John?
I don't know. I guess on that I would say why not one over the other? I suppose it's a matter of personal preference and what anyone thinks there. I suppose if you're gonna make that decision, like, okay, I want some manner of protection, so you can decide, I want to get a stun gun or pepper spray or a gun. Now, one thing I will say is about a stun gun, I've been shocked a couple times with a stun gun for shits and grins at a party. It's a long story. I was like, I wonder what this is like. So a friend of mine has them, like, hey, shock me with that a couple times. I just want to know what it's like. And unless it just wasn't a really good stun gun or something, it was a police issue taser, and it wasn't deployed with the electrodes shot and deployed. It was just touch shock. But I was like, yeah, that would not deter me from doing anything I was doing if someone stuck that to me and shocked me with it. It's annoying and it's a little painful, but it's not something that would have deterred me from doing anything. Pepper spray, I can't speak on. I've never been sprayed with pepper spray and don't intend to ever have that happen.
Aren't there guns that shoot? I mean, don't the police have
Rubber bullets.
Rubber bullets
Stuff
for
like that.
crowd
Bean
control?
bags.
Yeah, and from what I understand, I mean, those will break a rib or crack a rib. I mean, they're fairly potent if they hit somebody, especially at close range, aren't they?
Just like an
Anybody know?
airsoft gun or
At
something.
close range, they
I
can
don't
be
know.
lethal too. So
Really?
you're,
Yeah.
that's kind of a gamble you're running in that sense. So, but I guess like I would say this. One of my feelings about
I
gun
live
ownership
alone.
in terms of protection is if I decided to own a gun and I was attacked and I pull that gun out to use it, at that point I'm in fear of my life and I have decided that other person is trying to take my life. I guess I'm okay with the idea that this person's trying to kill me. We'll kill them first. There's certainly, you can argue gray areas about that, but that I would just say that's my personal opinion is, so I'm being attacked by this person that I perceive wants to kill me. I'm in mortal danger. I have the means to stop that from happening. I've heard people talk about waving a gun around as a deterrent. I think that's irresponsible. By the time you pull that gun out, it is that is you have now decided I'm going to kill this person. But in that situation, I can't say that I'm not okay with that. I don't like the idea of killing people. That I don't like. But if it comes down to you or someone that's attacking you, I can't say that I'm not okay with that.
Well, I've never used one like this, but I mean, wouldn't you, like with Brandy's situation, if you've got a gun and you're in your house alone, and you're sleeping and you hear a noise downstairs in the middle of the night, okay, you don't necessarily know that your life is in danger. Somebody could obviously just be there to rob your house, which isn't a good thing in and of itself. But I would think that most people would then proceed downstairs, gun in hand, loaded. You're not going to leave it up in your bedroom and go see if they're there to attack you, then run back for it.
I don't think it's unreasonable to think, though, that if someone's broken into your house while you're asleep, or you're home, and someone breaks into your home, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that person might be that person might be here to do something more than just take things from me. Certainly, people do break into homes with nothing more than the intention of grabbing things and running away.
But you don't assume that they're unarmed and they're not going to try to hurt you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be like, hey, are you guys here to do something bad? Because if so, I got a gun upstairs. Like, certainly, I would imagine if there's a gun in my house and I hear someone breaking in, I would probably go gun in hand to investigate as well. I just don't see that as I don't see that as problematic. I'm okay with that.
One thing I would say about if you're going to get a gun for self-defense, I mean, it's something I think you should take seriously. It's not something you should just say, "Oh, I've got a gun and it makes me feel better," and nothing else about it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta learn all about the gun that you bought and train yourself in it. Get some safety training. Shoot it a few times. Get some practice with it. Take it seriously.
I'd like to revisit the idea of the entry hall machine gun nest. I'm not just for clarification. I'm not being serious. So we have a question in the Q&A I want to address. I don't want to let it sit too long. Richard Hedger asks, are restrictions on purchasing firearms pointless now that 3D metal printers are becoming available so anyone can print a gun? I don't know that pointless is how I would describe that. They certainly that certainly changes the scope of restrictions or the ability to enforce restrictions.
The thing that I've seen,
I don't know that I would say no, they don't become pointless.
3D metal printers? Do 3D metal printers exist? I've never seen those.
Yeah,
I've only seen the plastic printers.
But isn't that addressed by the law that you read earlier, John, as far as things that can't be detected by X-ray machines at airports? I mean, that would include, I would think that was specifically for 3D guns.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, that law was not specifically for 3D guns. That law was put in place in the 80s, which was many years before 3D print.
Okay.
These are like 3D printed composite materials, and like those were not things that were really, I'm not going to say conceived at the time, but at least in the eyes of the legislators, these aren't things that the legislators were looking to forbid. I want to say, I don't remember which gun it was in the 80s. There was a gun in the 80s that was made in part of ceramics that weren't detectable by metal detectors. And
Glocks.
Was it Glocks? Yeah, I was thinking so, but I wasn't sure. But so those were part of the intention of legislation of that manner, as I understand it. I I don't know. Yeah, I'd say I don't think that makes those restrictions pointless, but it certainly would be. I'm certain that's something that's going to be addressed at some point. You've seen a little fervor on the internet or maybe on TV or on the radio about 3D printed guns. It's not a prolific thing right now. It may end up being that. It's not yet. So I guess time will tell how that goes.
Yeah, and basically you have already flooded the market with legal guns, so basically you're not going to need printed illegal guns, at least for now.
Yeah, well, technically, these printed guns are illegal anyhow because they have to have a serial number and made from a registered manufacturer. So if you're caught with one of these committing a crime, you're pretty much fucked.
Yeah. Plus, from what I've seen videos of people using these online, and they tend not to last more than about 100-200 rounds in the testing that they've done before they just blow up.
Yeah, but that would be enough to kill a person or a few people.
Yeah.
Levi commented in our Q&A that it should be a felony if it isn't already. You can't build a gun without an FFL as it is, so you shouldn't be able to print one either. And FFL is a federal firearms license.
Yeah, but it's not like criminals are going with the law anyway, so...
True, and I would imagine right now, though, I would imagine, this is speculation, that criminals or criminal organizations aren't really the people that are in on 3D printing right now. Those are more really tech hobbyists and innovative tech companies. And I haven't heard any stories yet of, oh yeah, this criminal organization was 3D printing insert item here for nefarious purposes. Which doesn't mean that can't happen. And if a 3D printer facilitates some criminal activities, I would, if it reasonably and efficiently and cost effectively facilitates criminal activities, I imagine that would be something you'd see happening. But I haven't seen stories of it happening yet, so it's kind of one of those things like, do you legislate ahead of time to keep that from happening, or do you wait and see what happens and react to it later? I don't really know.
Yeah, I think what they're going to do with 3D printing when it's sophisticated enough to produce actual guns is that they're going to do like blocks, software blocks. Even though it doesn't work probably for real criminals, it will help to avoid like just regular people printing of firearms.
A couple other talking points. Oh, go ahead, dumbass.
That was me. That was Carl. Was it dumbass? I'm sorry. Well,
I didn't say anything.
Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we're fighting over the right to be dumbass here. Just a little side note, especially Brandy, because you mentioned this. I was looking at rape statistics. I think that's a common reason that you'll hear, at least from women, in terms of wanting to have or wanting to own a gun. And I found it odd. For example, in 2010, the rate of rapes per 100,000 in the population for the U.S. is 27. So 27 rapes per 100,000 people. In Japan, the rate is 1 per 100,000 people. And oddly, in Sweden, it's 63 per 100,000 people. Finland, by the way, Erno, was 19. But my question there is, maybe is I don't know how to phrase this. Are we getting a false sense of hope by getting a gun? In other words, is that the thing that's going to really reduce the number of rapes or protect us, or is it a sort of a false sense of security? And is there maybe something else that we should be looking at? In other words, it seems like with all the focus on getting the gun to defend against rapes or robberies, does it make us not look at maybe what the real reasons are? So we're dealing with the symptoms, and we're not dealing with the problem.
Why
looks
not?
Like Brandy's having audio problems again. So she said she'd respond to that.
Okay.
I guess in notes on our post to that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't see why. If you've got a high rate of rape going on, I don't know why you wouldn't deal with the symptoms and the cause at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, only because I think that if if you can make the symptoms go away or reduce them to I don't want to call it an acceptable level, but you know what I'm saying, to a lower level, I think a lot of times it sort of takes away the impetus to look for the cause then, because you feel like the problem's under control. But
I guess I just don't understand what would be the point of telling them not to arm themselves to defend themselves.
Well, again, I mean, for me, it's simply I mean, the huge number of people that get killed accidentally. It's hard for me looking at the number of rapes.
How many people get killed accidentally in the middle of a rape, though?
I don't know. I have no clue.
I mean, if we're going to talk about people getting killed accidentally and telling people not to defend themselves with a gun, then rape, that's what we need to be talking about.
Anybody quick with math? 27 out of 100,000. What's that as a percent?
0.0027. I don't know.
0.26.
Well,
so it's 0.2%.
Oh, sorry.
But,
well, obviously there are some people in some situations too that are in more danger, and I suppose it depends on exactly how comfortable you feel, whether you feel that help will be able to get to you in time, and things of that nature. And some of it is a comfort, because most people do not. Most women do not get raped, of course, but you might be of the better to be safe than sorry mindset, and it's all. I guess it's all a personal kind of choice that you have to make.
Yeah.
And did you say 27 out of 100,000?
Yes.
Raped every year?
Yes, 2010 for the year.
I remember the statistics I hear are much higher than that in terms of throughout their life, something like 1 in every 3 or 1 in every 4 women is going to face rape or sexual assault.
Are these Insta Google stats?
Yeah, this is this is from the FBI site, but it's on Wikipedia. But it's a poll from the FBI site per year, number of rapes.
I was with Michael on that. I understood that you're. As a woman, your threat of you being raped is much higher than that.
Don't know, but
here's a question. Not each year, but throughout their lifetime.
Here's something about the idea of accidental death and handgun ownership. So Brandy wants to own a handgun, and so if I want to go over and visit Brandy one day and I just show up, maybe Brandy's napping, and I go walking in her house and she owns a gun and she suddenly wakes up a little confused about someone's walking in the house, and so then she arms herself, and I'm in danger. There's something that has played through my mind before. The way I think about that, though, is there's a situation that can easily be avoided by doing something like, oh, I knocked on the door and said, hey, it's me, or I called on the phone and said, hey, I'm on my way over. That kind of argument's like, yeah, those things could happen, but that to me is not a reason to say, yeah, you shouldn't own a gun.
Well, let me ask you.
That's not something I'm comfortable with you doing, because I'm not there all the time, and even if I was, that doesn't mean I am not a fail-safe prevention for something like that either, right?
Well, legislatively, I want to put this into perspective, because in Finland you would go to jail if you shot your attempted rapist, so you would probably get let's say 4 years or something.
Well, what I'm trying to say is like the idea that is a whatever percent chance of happening. That to me is not a reasonable enough argument to say no, you can't own or no, you shouldn't own a handgun for personal protection. If you feel like you are much safer owning a gun in your home to protect yourself from someone attacking you in your home, or even perhaps concealed carry, I might feel differently about that. I don't know, but we're talking about like home protection. So if you feel like you're safer and you feel more protected by having that gun in your home, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, I think I mean two things, and one of them I don't have the stats, so I'm just going to make up the stats. That always works well. But then there's a question that goes with it. I mean, certainly you might say that if there's a 0.02% chance of you being violated in your home, and that's why you want a gun. But if we can look at statistics overall and say that for every gun that anybody owns, there's a 0.4% chance that gun's going to be used to accidentally kill someone, then you do have to weigh that, I think, in the balance. But that I don't have that stat, so I'm not making that claim. But what I do have is when you have a car, for example, and you get your radio stolen out of your car, the first thing the insurance company wants to know is, was the car door locked? Because if the car door was unlocked and the window was rolled down, they're probably not going to pay for that radio. Would you support legislation that said that somebody who does not properly, if it can be shown that somebody did not properly secure their weapon and that weapon was stolen or used by someone else in the commission of a crime, that the owner of that gun should also go to jail and be held liable?
No.
Well, if he didn't take reasonable precautions to avoid it being stolen, then
right.
Maybe.
Yeah, he leaves it on his kitchen table loaded, and somebody breaks in, steals the gun, then goes out and commits a crime with it, or whatever happens. Or a teenager comes in or a child comes in and picks up the gun and shoots their brother or sister. Again, should the parent be held liable if we can show that they didn't properly take care of the gun? I mean, for me, that's gun safety. So it seems like there should be a penalty for not keeping the gun secured if you want to own one.
Well, on that note, no one has anything to say. Let's.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, there should be. I mean, we should be held responsible. I mean, owning a gun is the responsibility. It's not just a right; it's a responsibility, and to keep that gun, to have it, use it, whatever. I mean, you have to use reasonable precautions. If you've got kids in the house, you want to keep it locked away or something like that. Because a lot of times these shootings, these accidental shootings, they could be dad left the gun under the bed. Kids
right.
know where the gun is. Boom, they grab it and think it's a pea shooter, and I think that just happened not too long ago. But then you hear stories out of Wisconsin where hunters are shooting their hunting buddies, thinking that they're deer. One of the funniest one was there's this guy up in a tree stand. It's like a deer up in a tree, and he shoots him thinking it's a deer. It's like definitely alcohol was involved with this, or something else was involved with this. But then again, there's like it just seems so. I mean, that's kind of my position. There's a responsibility that goes along with this. So if you're not securing the gun properly, or not handling it or handling it properly, I mean, I think there should be some penalties. I mean,
yeah, I was visiting my sister not too long ago, and she lives on a chicken farm, and there's some woods in the back there. And we were saying, oh, there's some nice paths through the woods. Maybe we should go. Oh, wait a minute, it's hunting season. Probably don't want to go through the woods there. So I guess there's a real fear that people might be a little trigger happy in these things.
Oh yeah, Wisconsin. I'm always hearing they're saying be careful, stay on the roads.
I guess
stay away
what
from
I would
the woods.
ask about that is so you get. Are these fringe cases you hear about, though, where that happens, like a hunter shoots another guy in a tree thinking he saw a deer? I don't think it's unreasonable to think maybe the guy was drinking. That's not a common story, though. That's not saying that's not the majority or even a high number of hunters have problems like that. I don't think saying, oh, well, none of you are allowed to have a gun because look what this idiot did, shot somebody else because he thought this person up in a tree was a deer, so none of you should have guns. That seems a bit heavy-handed and extreme. I don't know what a fix for something like that is, but I think just disallowing the ownership of firearms in that case, that maybe that would fix the problem, sure, but it kind of steps on the, I don't want to say right so much as like it steps on the intelligence of people who are responsible and who are capable of owning and operating a firearm without doing something stupid or mindless like that.
Yeah, you can't cure stupidity.
But that goes to responsibility.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that just lends to responsibility. You've got a deadly weapon. It can take a life. Use it properly. Take some responsibility And
Yeah, and I the impression I have is that people I've talked to who are in favor of gun ownership and less stringent or less strict gun control are often in favor of some manner of training and like concealed carry licenses where it's required that you go through some amount of education courses and maybe even on range training, which I think here in Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure you have to spend so many number of hours on a firing range as well as 8 or 16 hours in a class learning about safe gun ownership and operation.
yeah,
And most people seem to agree that that's reasonable. I certainly think that's reasonable, at least for something like a concealed carry license. I don't know that I would say it'd be reasonable to mandate that for everyone who wants to own a gun at all, but I wouldn't say it's unreasonable either. I don't know. That I would have to ponder that a bit more. At least in some cases, I think that's reasonable. If you're going to carry a gun with you on your person, I think that's reasonable to have to go through some manner of education courses on how to safely own and operate that firearm.
Yeah, I took a hunter safety course. It's and it goes through all the details, how to handle the gun, what to do with the ammunition, how to transport, proper loading, unloading, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's not unreasonable to ask to put any gun owner through a course, and that's dependent, and that would depend on your license. I mean, between that and I think Illinois, all you really need is a ID card, and then you can buy a gun, but then you have to register it with the local police. So
yeah, if you think about driving a car, that requires a license. It's a deadly weapon, so why wouldn't the gun? I mean, it's small steps, like let's say there are a few days of training and you'd get a gun license. Why not? Is that too much to ask?
right.
So, speaking of gun safety, we have here a list of 5 critical rules of gun safety from the NRA and some other sources. Number 1, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Number 3, always keep the gun unloaded until ready to shoot. Number 4, be aware of what is behind your target. Number 5, when handling firearms, never use alcohol or any drugs. And also, number 6, one that I've heard said many times but not on this list, is always treat a gun like it's a loaded gun. Which kind of goes back to number 1, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Like, even if you think it's unloaded, treat it like it's loaded.
But no alcohol while shooting a gun. All those poor rednecks in their shooting parties.
That's un-American, man. Guns, alcohol.
I forgot to mention that earlier. The NRA was founded by 2 Yankees, by the way, just for all the Southern gun toters.
So here's some stats on numbers of guns. As of 2009, there were an estimated 310 million guns in the U.S., including 114 million handguns, 110 million rifles, 86 million shotguns, and in January of 2012, in a Gallup poll in January of 2012, 43% of surveyed Americans said they had a gun in their homes. That's consistent with the General Social Survey, which has found that over the past several decades, only 44.3% of Americans have kept firearms where they live. So what that says is we have an awful lot of guns per person in this country, and people who do own guns tend to own more than just one.
And yet, ironically, it doesn't seem to be any safer.
Yeah,
I would argue it's no less safe because of that either. And a point I've made about gun violence is that violent crime in general has been on a decline for 30 plus years here in the U.S. and there doesn't seem to be a direct correlation between gun ownership and that. And globally, people are becoming less violent. There are some examples certainly you can point to, like, well, this is going on in this place where there's violent things happening. Yes, but globally, violence is reducing as time goes on. I don't know. I feel like one could say, well, look, if crime's going down over the last 30 years, people have had all these guns, and maybe it's about guns. Well, that's kind of drawing a really thin line between two things without an awful lot of support there.
But I have to say that the only place I've ever been afraid of being shot is in the US. I've never been afraid of being shot in Finland. So there's that difference, because I was actually pointed the gun at by a nice little LAPD officer. And yeah, I was wielding a drumstick, like a drummer's drumstick. So that was my deadly weapon, and they were prepared to take me down.
That's Los
nothing for
Angeles.
that. Yeah, I got nothing for that. Like there are certainly a number of stories you can see, hear, or read about incidents where someone's shot dead by a police officer, where at least on the surface it seems like, wow, that person, like in your case, like you were carrying a drumstick, and how were you carrying a deadly weapon, and nonetheless maybe you were fired upon. It does happen.
But doesn't it make the police more jumpy if you know that anyone could be packing? Anyone you see in the street could be packing.
I guess I could speculate. Maybe it does. I don't know. So some more numbers then. It also seems that gun ownership is kind of on the decline here in America. Between the mid-'90s and some 2012 surveys, it seems there's an 8% decline in gun ownership in citizens. I'm going to blame things like the iPad and the iPhone sucking up people's money for things like that.
First world problems.
That's right. Back to numbers on crimes committed. This is just for perspective, not to substantiate any particular claim made here. In 2001, is that right? 2001? That's 2011. I may have typed this up wrong. I'm going to run with what I have here, just in case that's correct. In 2001, the U.S. had 11,101 homicides committed with firearms, which amounted to about 70% of all homicides, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which seems like a really odd agency to be doing that study. But that's a rate of about 3.6 gun killings per 100,000 people.
Disease?
I suppose. Whether or not that's a high rate is kind of a matter of opinion and context. I'm almost positive that's 2011, not 2001. So there's that.
In Finland, you are probably going to get knifed rather than shot, but that's probably not any better if you get.
Yeah, that's not comforting to me at all. So one thing, there aren't any countries with as many guns as the U.S. And sometimes there's a question put forth of like, are there any countries that have as many guns as the U.S. but less crime? Well, no, because there's no countries that have as many guns as the U.S. that we kind of stand above the rest of the world in terms of gun ownership. I think the rate is, this number I found in this particular article was a rate of 97 guns per 100 people in this country, but not evenly distributed. Finland has 69 guns for every 100 people, and Switzerland has 61 per every 100 people. In 2010, Finland had 14 gun homicides, which is a rate of 0.26 per 100,000 people, and Switzerland had 40 gun killings in 2010, which is a rate of 0.52 per 100,000 people. Those countries do have stricter gun control laws than the U.S., and I gave those numbers because those are a couple of examples of countries that have fairly high number of guns per number of citizens. Again, there's no causal link drawn between the gun control restrictions and the reduction in gun homicides.
Yeah, but
one could just say from looking at those numbers that's the case, but I wouldn't draw that line without some kind of really substantiated study on that.
You have to remember that in Finland, most men are trained to use weapons. Almost everyone is, men. And then again, you have to have proper licenses, so the guns tend to stack to those people who know how to use them. So they just, those who have gun licenses buy the ammo and the guns because other people can't. So, and they're mostly hunting weapons.
Another point is the 1994 assault weapons ban didn't seem to have that was in effect for 10 years, and it didn't seem to have a noticeable effect on gun crime rates. They seem to remain, on whatever level they were on, regardless of whether or not assault weapons were used. And in fact, for most gun crimes in the U.S., handguns are what are used rather than assault weapons.
Yeah,
Let's see.
would I live in the States, I'd probably own a gun, because you flooded the market with guns. It's too late to go back on that.
Yeah, and that's why I said, like I said earlier, that cat's out of the bag by now. It's the idea of like everyone's guns being taken away, that's just not going to happen. There are too many guns owned here in America for something like that to really be a reasonable worry. And the last talking point I have is that Gallup polls have shown a decline of Americans in favor of gun control over the last 20 plus years. And my personal speculation on that is that I imagine it's more a vocal minority on either side that's really taken up the banner of gun control, proposals in opposition. I think you see a number of high-profile tragedies in news media's TV, radio, internet, school shootings, the congresswoman who was shot in Arizona, and a number of other examples. And those become, well, first you're saturated. We're all kind of saturated by stories of that. They're very pervasive, and people talk about it around you. You see it on the internet. You hear it in podcasts, on radio shows, on TV. And it doesn't take a lot of people talking really loudly on one side or the other about an issue about gun control when you're talking about a story like that for it to seem like that's a big majority of people stand behind one side or the other on that. And I think that's what happens a lot is you have a few talking heads that are really screaming one thing or another, and that becomes, the perception becomes, oh, these people are what insert other party here thinks about this, when in fact there's a lot more middle ground than there is polar opposition.
Yeah, when I lived in the States, I pretty much noticed that a lot of your news is just fear-mongering. Like, your news is nothing like our news. we have something like, yay, polar bears are cute, and you have like, yeah, there was this horrible killer, he knifed 5 people and then drank their blood.
That is, that's very true.
Well, that's.
He was an atheist. That's what my friend said.
All right, so let's move on to our last 2 segments. First, we'll do the news stories today.
Wow, segments! We actually have segments now.
Yeah, we're doing segments. That's a thing, right? People do that.
Yeah, podcasts do that. Professional ones.
I'm not even pretending we're one of those. All right, so our first news story, which goes along with this, more guns, less violence. Let me open this article up here. This is from the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. The Detroit Police Chief, I lost his name. James Craig, sorry. Detroit Police Chief James Craig offered a solution to reducing the really high crime rates and murder rates of Detroit, which are the highest right now in any city, by allowing law-abiding citizens to obtain concealed carry permits. This is notable in the news because that's very counter to what you normally see with police officers or police spokesmen and chiefs. Normally they seem to oppose the idea of citizens carrying guns, but here's the police chief saying that would actually help reduce crime. So, any thoughts on that? Yeah. This is kind of rehashing things we've already said, I realize.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose look hard enough, you can find support for any position. I'm curious. I don't mean to be snide there, but I'm curious. I mean, from the way you said that, John, it seems that he's the odd opinion out amongst his peers.
That's at least what the article says. Yeah.
Correlation only implies causation.
So our next story, trans woman dares Bible-quoting councilman to stone her to death. A Shreveport, Louisiana city council member on Tuesday withdrew a bill that would repeal the city's recently passed anti-discrimination ordinance following backlash from residents, including one woman willing to call his bluff. So what happened here was this lone council member in Shreveport, Louisiana, wanted to repeal this bill that this anti-discrimination bill, and a transgender woman was there quoting the Bible. I have the actual quote here. Leviticus 20:13 states, "If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely put him to death." Raintree was her name, Pamela Raintree. And she said, "I brought the first stone," holds up a big rock, says, "I brought the first stone, Mr. Webb, in case that your Bible isn't just a smokescreen for personal prejudices," and she dared him to stone her to death. And about 5 minutes later, he just withdrew his his bid for that legislation to be repealed. I say good on you, Pamela. I say good on you, Pamela. Screw that guy. Well done.
Yeah, that's ballsy, and I like ballsy, even with trans people.
That's assertive and ballsy, and I stand behind her 100% on that.
Yeah.
So our next news story: South Florida and New York psychic going to prison must repay $2.2 million to victims. South Florida psychic Nancy Demetro Marks, who went by the name Joyce Michael or Joyce Michaels, admitted that she basically had, and she admitted that she had built these people out of $2.2 million. She apologized in court at her sentencing, saying, "Even though I was raised to be a psychic, I should have known better, and I do know better now." And she's been ordered to begin her term of 3 years and 9 months by February 14th this year. I don't know. I don't know what my reaction to that is. Like, good that she was called out for being a fraud. Like, it's just a shame that $2.2 million she bilked off people for contacting the spirit world.
I mean, can we just use that as sort of a what's the word I'm looking at? A court precedent, and just go out and arrest all the psychics and throw them in jail? I mean, they're all bilking people out of money.
You wish.
I know.
Well, not the real ones, of course.
No. Well, we need a psychic to tell us which ones those are. Yeah, I think we should build a special prison, a psychic prison. And when they're interred in prison, and they say, we should make them divine when it is they're going to be released, and see who guesses right.
You can put them in prison and just have, like, you can be paroled today if you can just tell me what's actually on the other side of this card I'm holding up.
Exactly. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Well, the psychic's kryptonite is a person who doesn't believe, right? Because, if a person who's giving us negative energy doesn't believe in them, that like completely messes up their psychic gifts. So the guards have to just be non-believers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could be in there. I think we should make a prison for them, and they could get massages from the chiropractors, we can make a little spot for the whole lot of them. The naturopath, the homeopaths. We could, if any of the prisoners got sick, they should be treated by the homeopaths that are in the same prison.
Boring. Next news story.
Okay, fine.
Michael McElroy says Mike's not working. It shows here that you're muted, Mike. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Okay, next news story. All right. Elves, yes, elves spark road building protest in Iceland. So
you don't mess with those fuckers. They can ride on shields and everything. They have bows
downstairs.
And arrows.
They ride shields downstairs. Yeah, I've seen that before in a movie.
Yeah, you don't fuck with elves. That's the first rule in Finland. If you see an elf, run.
So over the past few months, environmentalists in Iceland have been staging high-profile protests against road construction that's scheduled to cut through an area of volcanic rock in the, I'm going to butcher this, Alftanes Peninsula, which is not far from the capital of Reykjavik. It's one of many protests in the world going on, but it's notable because of the fact that it cites the destruction of the homeland of elves, which apparently a large number of citizens in Iceland believe that elves and fairies exist in the wild there. My take on this is that I'm okay with the idea that we don't want a road built through this area that we deem something that should be conserved, but that's a pretty bizarre justification for that protest.
Yeah, it was pretty much a nature conservation effort. So I don't know if it's overblown with the elf thing, but yeah, it's basically just wilderness that they don't want to spoil. But yeah, elves were said and used, so elves it is.
Well,
All right,
the
so
elves need a place to make their cookies.
That is true. That's a good point. And near volcanoes, I don't know, natural ovens or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. So in our what and what segment, so Glenn Beck says some crazy shit.
Wait, what? Glenn Beck says something.
Yeah, I know, bizarre. This comes from Pathos.com, which also links to Right Wing Watch. Glenn Beck compared Obamacare, or the Affordable Health Care Act, to a religion of the state, wherein if you don't buy into this healthcare system, that you're not tithing to the Church of Man or the Church of the State.
Am I now audible again?
Yes.
You are now audible again, just in time for this crazy fucking shit from Glenn Beck. So.
Glenn Beck is a marvelous, marvelous man because he's a pinnacle of self-contradiction. So in this,
isn't he though?
I don't know if this was on his. Does he have a radio show or an internet show now?
It's an internet show. That's what
he's talking about how Obamacare is a godless church of man to which you're forced to pay tithing, or you won't be a legal citizen of the United States. And he says that it should be killed and voted down as unconstitutional because of the separation of church and state. And as J.T. Eberhard posted on the WWJTD
and don't forget,
blog.
Also in that rant, that progressives are fascists.
Oh yes, progressives are fascists.
Point that he made.
I don't think he really understands the word fascist. It's kind of funny how this term has been switched sides here. But anyway, but J.T. Eberhard posted another video of him doing some special talk somewhere with David Barton, the famous pseudo-historian, talking about how the Constitution doesn't have a principle of separation of church and state. So he is this wonderful bastion of self-consistency. But with the term fascist, there's this image of hippies back in the day calling policemen fascists and all this, and now it's Glenn Beck calling the liberal progressives fascists, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and like I said before, my religion says that we have to stone homosexuals, or homosexuals have to be stoned, and that's why marijuana should be legal. Shit, I'm reading.
Is that what that was? It's a rockin' soundtrack to your commentary. That's awesome. All right, in our next segment, Navy 757 sized drone will provide big time surveillance. So what this is a new drone that has the wingspan of a Boeing 757 and is being tested by the U.S. Navy as a surveillance drone. With the obvious arguments about surveillance drones, over U.S. soil or anywhere for that matter, aside, I kind of think it's cool. So it's a 757 size unmanned aircraft. That's kind of neat tech-wise anyway.
This isn't a stealth drone, obviously.
No, it's not. Some of the neat features about this is apparently, I guess it's very well equipped to handle severe weather conditions. The way it's designed, it's well designed to fly through some severe weather that I'm guessing normally pilots would steer around. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that size, it probably comes with a full-featured kitchen, 2.5 baths, an office.
Well, no, it's so it doesn't even need all that.
Well, but there's no reason we shouldn't pay to put it in anyway.
You need a jacuzzi.
Touche, sir.
I mean, just in case, you never know, right?
So another what? This comes from NRAstore.com. This is the NRA tactical pen.
I have one of those. Here it is, right? I'd like to show you my tactical pen right here. Go ahead. It has an easily removable top, and then you stab the person in the eye.
I think you should stab it in the neck. That
For a moment,
would
I was
be
going
more
to tell you to keep
painful.
your pants on.
So it's designed. I guess it's designed. You can write with this, but then you can also switch it. I think you turn part of it around, if I'm seeing this right. And it has a very hardened steel point that you can use for shattering glass. Which, say your car is trapped underwater and you need to get out of your car and you need to break the glass, I guess. Also for self-defense, you could stab somebody with your NRA tactical pen, gouge them in the eye with your pen if you needed.
Hopefully next they'll come up with tactical underpants with which you can clobber someone to death.
The Mormons already have those. They're working.
They have tactical pants on that website. Different kinds of tactical shirts and pants and shorts, everything.
Her microphone is working.
Well, I'm
Welcome
on my
back.
iPad. I'm on my trusty iPad.
Welcome back just in time for the end.
Nice.
So our last what is also from NRAstore.com. It's the NRA infant bib. Get them started early. Get them a little NRA bib. I guess it does bear noting this doesn't have guns or anything on it. It's just blocks that say NRA, like kids blocks that say NRA on the bib.
They should have more letters. That NRA, you don't get to really write anything.
Well, that's
on
okay.
those.
It could be for like not really aware.
I suppose it could. And on that note, so all right. So Mike Bowler, what do you got coming up next on Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy and/or the Bitch Spot Report?
Oh, so the Skeptic's Guide's going to be part 2 of 9/11. I'll try to get into some more of the...
Wasn't the first one enough?
I heard you got very good feedback for the first one.
Oh, the early one sucked. No one liked it, so I decided to go and do a real
Brushing up
show.
for the new decade?
Yeah, but now I'm going to start talking about the conspiracies themselves and kind of the evolution and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Bitch Spot.
Are you worried that that's an explosive topic?
Yeah, it could be.
Are you talking about evolution or conspiracies?
I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
yes.
stop there.
Phrasing. Bit Spot. Probably just some news stories. Carlton has been an inspiration, so I'm coming up with some ideas. So we'll see how that pans out.
Excellent.
So
All right, Dumbass, you got anything new coming up that you want to tell us about?
Well, let's see. The Amateur Skeptics they just did their 100th episode. I wasn't on the 100th episode, but I put in a little recording that I did for them about that I think turned out really well. The next episode of the Amateur Skeptics, we recorded that just last week, and that's going to be about government surveillance and stuff like that. So that'll probably be coming out in a week or two. My next, I'm going to try to get my next episode of the Dumbass's Guide to Knowledge out maybe today. See if I can get that all put together. I'm going to put in a little, because I've been going through some stuff. So I'm going to be putting a little explanation of that in there. It's just some really depressing thing that happened to me. That I just put it in an afterword in case anybody wants to listen to it. I'm gonna try to get more stuff out there.
Excellent. And for the Irreverent Skeptics podcast, next week we're going to talk about ancient aliens and mysteries. Aliens.
Awesome.
awesome.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yay.
All right, so that's it for this week. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you all again next week.
Remember,
Hopefully
I'm
without
always
as many
packing my
technical
flash
problems.
gear.